look over your shoulder and it hits the dam in the same shot, and water starts pouring through a hole. And then Tintin, without looking back, says, "Did you hit anything?" And I think he just looked at him and said, "Oh dear."
Yeah.
Did you hit anything?
Oh dear.
And boom!
One of the real delights for me in this experience on Tintin has been watching Steven embrace the technology of performance capture, and in particular the way that he directed the actors and blocked the scenes for the movie.
It's really wide, and he leaves here and goes up the stairs out of frame. Right to there. Okay, here we go. I shot the entire story in 31 days with all the different actors performing their roles on a volume, performance capture volume, just a little bit bigger than a basketball court.
The volume is basically a 3D space. And how that volume is created is we use about 160-ish cameras in the ceiling that are all pointed into the stage. And they create a 3D box so that when any character enters that volume, the cameras are hitting it from every side, creating a 3D virtual image that can be read through the reflective dots that are on it and are picked up through the virtual camera.
Motion capture allows the filmmaker to have that hands-on experience because it's not even a camera that you're holding, it's like a PlayStation controller, but it's a virtual camera, meaning that it does what a camera does, but it does it all in the brain of a computer. And all the camera shots that we dream about that are way too complicated, that would take hours and hours to set up, you know, these complicated shots we're able just to do with a little bit of tweaking the thumbs on the joysticks. So it's terrific. I mean, as filmmakers, it's a dream come true.
Weta really honed their skills on Avatar through The Human Artist with Jim Cameron, and I became more and more comfortable as I began to see more and more of Avatar that this was the group to really be able to pull this off. And I don't want to compare Avatar to our movie because it's different. Avatar had live action characters intercut with performance capture characters in a performance capture world. But we are 100% animated. And yet every single human being that's represented in Tintin is an actor that gave a full performance, and it all comes through the digital makeup.
This'll chase the chilblains from your toes. What are you doing? Our oars! You're burning our oars! We need those oars!
Yes, but not for much longer.
Have you gone mad?
Our team on Tintin was quite big because we did the entire shoot on the Giant Studio stages in LA, but we literally brought everything. We brought entire infrastructure, servers, computers, workstations, everything. And we had a support team basically set up for like almost a month to get everything in place and get everything ready.
1, 2, 3, lift.
The crew size was somewhere upwards of 200 people, and it doesn't seem like it when you're out there, but if you go into all the different back rooms and departments, you really see that there is actually that many people. But like live action, you know, you still have a wardrobe crew, makeup crew, and grips and stunts, and you know, all the usual set support that you have. But in addition to that, there are these specialized groups that integrate in with the process.
It's a bird, right? This squirrel actually is a bird.
I'd never done anything like this before in my life. In my career, never come across technology like this. So I really went into it like this. And Andy has been an enormous help because he's the guru at this. He's done this incredibly successfully many times before. So he was really the guide for me to get into it.
You know, I'm very evangelical about performance capture because it's something I've invested, you know, many years in now. And I'm really hoping that this movie will make a big impact into the perception of performance capture. It's a very, very important one. This is not just actors lending their voices to characters, but the actor is standing there playing the role, investing in the character, embodying the character psychologically, physically. And we play out the scenes in an environment which is pretty sterile, but we have wireframe constructed representations of what is the set.
Wonderful drone. Giant rat of Sumatra.
Getting ready to start work, many things have to happen. Firstly, of course, you get into your suit, those lovely suits, and then you sit in the chair and put on this plastic mask That's got all these holes in it, which is basically a stencil for where they're going to put all these dots on your face.
Well, first we do a digital facial scan of each actor, and from that we create a mask, which we'll use as a template. We then create a customized facial grid of each actor. We then transpose that onto their mask. So each day when the actor works, we have an exact identical copy of their grid. After the initial marks are in place, we apply the paints. They're skin safe, water resistant, so even through complicated stunts, the dots stay in place. Each actor takes about a half hour to do, and they last all day.
It's just so they can laugh at us. It's quite funny, every time we leave the set and I go to my trailer, the security guard says, "Hey, you got something on your face." Do I?
It's facial mapping, basically. Yeah. You have it done every day. They're in exactly the same place. You go through a range of movements, or ROM, on the computer. Big happy face. So when it's rendered as a 3D event, it can replicate exactly your facial expressions.
Get this thing off me, man!
Next, we place a head cam on each actor. This camera is recording all of the facial dots that we've put on each actor's face, and they're captured within the customized grid that we've created.
The actor literally, they look a bit like they're in a torture device because they wear a helmet with a camera right here. And that camera records what their face is doing at all times because we're capturing the performance.
Where's my dog?
They are a challenge, I have to say, and it's the first film that I've used these head-mounted rigs on. But if you want to get your heads close together, you have to be mindful of the other person's boom, and that can present a challenge.
Then we go into the scaling booth, where we load ourselves up into the computer so that when we enter the volume, we're tracked as Tintin, so that it knows my data and information.
Wiggle your wrists around, your fingers, just bend down and touch your toes, and then bend up and all the way back this way.
The software has to know exactly what is out on the stage. So there's always going to be that prep phase of registering the actors and knowing where those markers are.
And by that point, you're already exhausted. No, by that point, it's it's player time, really.
Just take us out into open space.
When you step onto the volume, once you cross that red tape line, you're really into a completely different environment, a different world.
This medium scares a lot of actors because you've got to seriously perform making eye contact with other people who do not look like the characters that they're portraying.
Unfortunately for us, Stephen put up all of these reference pictures, which are basically panels taken from the comic books of various different poses for all the different characters, just for reference.
Like that, right.
And that for me is incredibly useful. Every time I walk onto set, I really wanted to make sure that we can strike some of those poses and to get Tintin, the static, iconic hero, into a moving, full three-dimensional, living, breathing character.
Try and get my legs spread further.
This was the first movie where we had a real-time output, where the real world was just on every monitor around the volume, and the actors could just look over and see the set they were in and see the avatars of who you are and who you're becoming. As
performers, it's incredibly useful to see how this translates into Tintin's body, to see how he moves. And I think for Stephen, as a filmmaker, to be able to see kind of somewhat what it's going to look like in the end, I think has been incredibly useful to him.
What is it about this ship? Why has it attracted so much attention?
The idea was we were going to go out and capture the whole movie as a play.
What secret does the unicorn hold?
Using the camera basically just to get the masters.
And cut.
And he would do his coverage in post. And Stephen said, I have an idea. I need to go back to what I know, and that's making film.
Step back to one, and here we go.
And I want to try to apply film to the concept of how we're going to shoot this movie. So we did every single setup, every single shot, as if it was doing shot, close-up coverage, medium shot. And he designed every shot as we did it. And Stephen physically shot it. I mean, he shot it like a movie.
He could actually hold the camera out on the stage, and he could be moving in amongst the actors.
Action. Because as long as I'm not wearing a suit and the computer isn't sensing where I am, I can be in the volume right next to the actors at full performance level, and they're acting 3 feet away from me. I've never been that close to a performance.
The third screw!
We cut.
It also moved at a pace that I think he wishes to this day he could move at that pace in live action photography, because so often what happens is if you're shooting in one direction and you turn around, you're waiting. You're having to ask the cast to wait, the director's waiting, everybody's waiting for the lighting to be adjusted, and then you try to get back into the scene as quickly as possible. Where in performance capture, you move the camera around and you're shooting right away.
Let's cut one more time. I was getting 70 to 75 shots a day. With Stevie Meisler and I were both trading off, operating the camera, getting all of our shots.
It is, it's very, very exhausting. The first week that I shot with Jamie, we both came out the end going, you know, this pace it's unrelenting. We were both trashed by the end of the week.
Because you've got to dig it in the water.
I was in Los Angeles for the first week of our motion capture session, and then I came back to New Zealand, but we just used a regular iChat system, and I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning in order to be in Los Angeles at 8 a.m. at the beginning of their day, and I sat there sometimes for 7 or 8 hours.
I'll just make myself I'll get a hot cup of tea because I'll need it.
In the mornings, I'll be putting my helmet on and getting ready for work, and I'll hear that little which is Peter in New Zealand signing on and kind of like checking in with us and seeing where we are, which has been a fascinating experience, you know, to have Steven Spielberg sitting in his chair and Peter Jackson on the screen opposite him, and them two really collaborating.
Right now I'm going to have him walk toward the house, and he can't find Snowy now. Snowy! And then suddenly he hears a growl, and he turns, and here comes the dog.
At one point, someone said, oh, we're just going to go get Peter. And then they brought him in on a laptop and put him on a chair like he was a head in a jar.
In the desert.
Yeah.
The art department works with our virtual sets and the on-set build. There's sort of an interesting thing where everything we build digitally that the actors interact with or move around or need to see is built in literally wire frames of life-size objects that we put on set, so the actors can know where things are in the digital world.
We're here to capture their motion, and anything that they interact with has to be essentially transparent so that the cameras can see through it.
What we're doing here is we're basically capturing sets of data. So if we were to actually open an umbrella in the volume where we're shooting, it would block perhaps half the markers on one of the Thompsons. So these umbrellas are pretty cool because when you open them, they don't really block any light, but you still have the shape and the canopy of the umbrella, so you know where it is. And when it's set down on the floor, it keeps the handle up at the right angle.
The important thing is that we're able to track all of the things that have entered the volume on a motion capture film, which includes props and set pieces, head rigs, wardrobe. Everything needs to be tracked.
So what we have is we have a database, and this database shows every little prop that we have in our library.
We have over 500 individual barcoded items. That's a pretty high number in terms of individual physical props, especially because a group of them may actually represent one in the script.
Ah, Tintin!
Why? If it isn't
Thompson and Thompson,
my old friends from Interpol.
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost brought a lot of improvisation, but it was practiced improvisation because they had to keep their body movements being in step with each other, being synchronous in almost everything they do.
We had choreographers helping us really create this synchronized performance where they finish each other's sentences and they're one half of the same person.
You could almost have them as silent movie characters, you know.
Absolutely. We were very lucky to have Terry and Carl from Cirque du Soleil come and work with us and create a sort of physical language of movement, which we built on, and had a great fun for like 2 weeks messing around in a dance studio.
Walking around for a lot of the time.
I started with doing a lot of research. Whenever I work on a film, I pour myself into the research part of it. And what I found with Hergé is if you break it down into line drawings, that there's always these beautiful angles and lines of direction. That's basically where I started, and then, of course, the choreography and the slapstick and the humor all has to come in.
That I can do. Should we kiss it in?
Well, the first thing I wanted to do with Nick and Simon was just sort of get them in sync, get them sort of feeling as though they were one person. So the first few days were just counts and steps and sort of feeling each other, you know, in the space and being aware of each other as one person and developing the walk, gestures, you know, the classic Hergé gestures that we want to hit.
Impossible! Be vigilant, Tintin. Rest assured we're on the case. Yes, leave this to the professionals. Oh, I'm sorry, Thompson.
So there was a lot of improvisation on the practice rehearsal stage that was then brought into the volume when we started to capture the story and capture their comedy.
The good thing about Tintin is that we have such physical actors. Daniel Craig, what else can we say? He's Bond, you know, and he is every bit of that action superstar that you would think he is. Jamie Bell, once again, another gifted, physically talented actor.
Tintin has a very unique way of moving. So it's been fantastic to actually be able to do all that stuff myself.
Thanks. Pleasure. And then, of course, there is Andy Serkis. Andy was everything from Gollum to King Kong. You know, he's such a gifted movement specialist aside from being an actor.
Andy's done a lot of stuff. I think he falls over in almost every scene.
The fuel tank! It's almost empty!
Oh, I'm a half-full man myself.
You have to have special stunt rigging people that not only set up the wires and the truss system to do the stunts, but they can also create a great look. You know, it's harder than you can imagine to see someone try to act like they're swimming in water when they're not swimming in water.
Tintin! Tintin!
You know, create movement out of a barrel and make it look like someone's riding a camel.
Fred, we got it. We got it.
By the time the 31 days was over and we wrapped the company, I only needed one more week in the camera capture volume to augment those shots before turning everything over to my editor, Mike Hahn.
As an editor, it was the same for me as it always was. He shot coverage and he shot pieces, and we edited it, and it went very well. And we finished the cut, and we sent it to Weta in New Zealand, and we only heard from them when they had something to show us.
Where it all comes down for me, and why we did what we did with this technology, is the medium is not the message here. The characters in the story are.
Do you see? That's the location of the treasure. Starboard! Quickly!
We did it!